Continue to reflect on Peter Magubane's life. We speak now to jazz and documentary photographer Siphiwe Mhlambi. Thank you very much, sir, for your time this morning. Perhaps for the purpose of the conversation and for time, we're just going to take a look at his images, and maybe you can help us understand, as a photographer yourself, what perhaps the message that was being communicated was. Maybe we'll start with how he got into photography, and you take a look at this drum cover and how he actually got to be a drum. We understand that he initially did not work at the photography department. Do you know the story behind how Peter Magubane got to be a photographer?
I did understand the story when I joined drum myself. I joined drum around 1992. And I was there with the likes of Bani Cohen, Bukezangwe, and all that. And the stories were shared in the newsroom on how Peter Magubane came to work for their publication. Apparently, he was a driver. And normally, which I did myself, there will be a team of three, a photographer, a writer, and a driver. So we get to do a story, and then the driver stays behind. And myself and the journalist will go in and do the work. But Peter Magubane he was a visionary. He could see things that we couldn't see at the time. I'm talking about the guys that he was working with. And then I know people like Yagan Shagabek were there, Buchim Bailey were there to assist him. He used to carry a camera in a car. Whenever we journalists were doing work somewhere else, he will be witnessing other things and he will start using his own camera. And that's how he developed. But he took it further, and then he became greater than all of them that were around at the time.
A visionary indeed. I do wonder if we can pull up this picture of Umamwini Matikizela Mandela. And this particular picture, for instance, so we'll show it to our viewers now, where she is behind a gate, and it looks like cages, right? And she's standing there and she's peering. What does that picture tell you?
You know, in photography, and which is what I learned from Peter Magubane, amongst others, Alf Kumalo, Maki Mzileni, Mofet Zungu, that, you know, to be a visual storyteller, you should be able to read a picture without reading the caption. So the picture that you take has to be as humble as you can. So we are able to adapt into different situations, into different environments, and then become one. So then in that way, you are able to receive what the subject is without really, and then I know very much that he did not like to pose for people to take pictures. If he infringe your space, he will apologize later after he's taken his picture, because at that moment, at that split second, that's where the image is. And that was his style throughout his career.
This particular picture of a young Mamwini Matikizela Mandela is so haunting, because when her husband was in prison, she was also in her own prison, right? Right here at home, having to take care of home and keep the community fires, not just the home fires, but the community fires burning. And then we take a look at a particular image that he took of two young boys. One is crying. They look like twins. They're wearing the same shirts. One is crying and one is not, and one is hugging the other one. What does that picture tell you?
I grew up exactly like that. I have a younger brother, 3 years younger than me. We were orphaned. Well, our parents, we grew up without parents. So we grew up in different homes, in different people, and all of that. That image takes me back, you know, for me to follow Peter Magubane and do the work that he did. It was more personal to me, because I wanted to relate. I wanted to tell the stories that I went through. That image depicts exactly how I grew up. I mean, I went to school at the age of 13 for the first time. So picking up a camera was just to do just that, do justice so that we don't go back there. We reflect things that happen in going forward. And then, I mean, any child shouldn't be growing up like that. So these are the images that he picked up and letting us that these things shouldn't be happening in our communities. And he was there to portray that. And for the fact that we also are here doing exactly what he was teaching us, I feel honored that I walked in his footsteps.
That is another incredibly haunting picture of these two boys. You can only draw your own conclusion in terms of what happened here. And when one is weak, the one is strong. I guess even in present day society, where you just, you know, I guess, that togetherness. And then, like you mentioned, he never asked for permission when taking photos. He would take a photo. This particular photograph, we believe he even sneaked the camera to be able to take this picture. So it's a number of children, and there's some children in a basket, or there's a child, a baby, in a basket. What do you know about this photograph?
If you had spent time with Magubane, you will understand his journey. You will understand his anger towards the system of apartheid at the time. And he was not only, I like that you show in these images, he was not only on violence and police beatings and all of that. Even in our own social communities where we lived, there were inaccuracies that shouldn't have been happening at the time. So he was just there to reveal all of that across the board, but that's what it is when we say a visual storyteller. He did not use words a lot, but it was just images that tells a story without actually even reading the caption.
We understand he would hide his camera in hollowed out bread loaves, empty milk cartons, and even Bibles. And of course, he did a lot of work when it came to capturing the atrocities of apartheid. And so we take a look maybe at the Sharpeville massacre. This particular photograph where you have a number of white men who are towering over corpses after they'd shot down people. This particular picture, when you take a look at it, and there's one black uncle who is folding his arms as another one walks past. But you wonder what those policemen are looking at and what is in front of them when these dead bodies are behind them. What was your understanding about, because our makeup artist Sibusiso Dlamini, as Lobang Mogai, the producer of the show, was explaining and giving us a brief in the makeup room, he took a particular interest in Ubaba Magubane's work, and he said, "Yena kanti bekayenzani abantu mebedutshulwa nje bathatha ithombe." How did he manage to produce this kind of work? One can only believe that this is just divine.
Yeah, the aftermath of whatever happens, the story is not only on the action, on what is happening in front of you, it's also the aftermath. And this is also what I learned from him. The man's mind, and he reminds me also very well of people like Ernest Cole, which is exactly the same work that they used to do. You must be just a complete visual storyteller when you get to a place. Sometimes you get along with the people that you are working with, sometimes you don't. But you just have to be in that space. I could have dinner with kings and queens in one day, and the same day you could be involved in such killings and all of that. So we were able to adjust. But I suppose in this particular image, he was just reflecting, and in his own way, through his lens, what he saw. And now the world know what happened, rather than just in front and even behind the scenes.
And then, Mr. Mhlambi, sir, I'd just like to show our viewers an image of you and Ubaba Magubane. And so you read the literature, more so the likes of Nat Nakasa, the likes of Ken Temba, the greats that did it, more so in that era of drum back in the 50s, back in the 60s, etc. And they speak about how journalism is when you abandon rather your fear and you tell the truth anyway, even when you are trembling, right? And so the biggest gift that he has gifted the space of photography or photographic journalism.
Mm-hmm. And that's why we have so many challenges as photographers. I had another workshop with Len Kumalo when he was showing his work in Sharpeville. We go through most difficult times as photojournalists, because during the day you go in and you get exposed to all of these atrocities that happens. And when you get back home, you still have to be a normal person and get along with your family. But it's taking a lot on us. But I suppose in a nutshell, we've gave our lives to it. We will do it to the end because that's how it is. I cannot change. I've been doing this for the past 40 years myself. And I was trained by the very same people who we're talking about now. Mofet Zungu, Mike Mzeleni, Ken Ostebrook, Peter Magubane, Walter Dladla, Juta Ngwenya. all of those people left something in us, and it's up to us to carry that baton that they left to move on, because the story is not finished yet. There's still a long way to go. We're still encountering such things that you see now on Peter Magubane's images. They still happen to this day. You go anywhere. I mean, you don't have to go a radius of 5 kilometers from where you are. You will get to see some of those images depiction. And I don't think it's fair that 30 years later, this year, we'll be celebrating 30 years of our democracy, but we're still doing the very same thing that we did then. And we inherited from Peter Magubane. So what is the storyline now for us? You know, we still carry on with the hardships that we had. I don't think it's fair, honestly.
The capturing of the black condition then and now. Thank you so much, sir, for your time and your reflections this morning. Siphiwe Mhlambi is a jazz and documentary photographer, and a big thank you to the New York Times for the images that we have been able to share with our viewers as well.